I'm Sharon Wolf with CPRE's Knowledge Hub. I'm an assistant professor at the Graduate School of Education at the University of Pennsylvania. And we're joined today by Dr. Aaliyah Samuel, who is the Education Division Director for the National Governors Association. Can you tell us a little bit about what your role entails?
Sure. So my role at the National Governors Association is to support governors and their policy advisors or key staff on education issues. And it can be on any level of the continuum of education, from early childhood, which we categorize as birth through age 8, or K-12. And we provide policy, we help think about policy solutions, we provide research, we provide access to content experts in the field. We really serve almost as air traffic controllers, basically helping them as they navigate through various education discussions or decisions in their state.
Great. And this past November was a relatively quiet year with only 2 gubernatorial elections. Mm-hmm. What can we expect for 2018?
Yes, so this year in 2017, we had 2 elections, one in Virginia and one in New Jersey. And in 2018, there will be a minimum of 36 more elections. There'll be several governors who are termed out, so we know that there will be brand new governors, and then there'll be some governors who will elect to not run again. And then there'll just be political change. So we will have a very large new class of governors next year.
And can you tell me a little bit about how you support the Office of the Governor and their education policy efforts?
Sure. So we work specifically at the request of the governor's offices. And so, and the request can come in different ways. One way is through what we're calling the governor's response team. And that is when we can get anywhere from an email, a phone call from a policy advisor to say, our state wants to discuss X issue. Can you please provide support? And support could look very different. It could mean coming in and helping to facilitate a convening with key constituents in the state on an issue. It could mean providing resources and support. It could be helping to identify who might be the appropriate person to testify on a particular issue. It could be helping the policy advisor think about talking points for the governor's state of the state. So those are more informal requests. But then we also launch specific projects, and the projects are really developed, they have been developed through our advisory committee process that we had this year, which consisted of national partners, but also very much hearing from policy advisors and governor staff on what those education issues are that they're tackling. And we develop these projects to really provide that intensive support on specific issues that we know are critical in the field. And right now we have a whole host of projects. We have one around human capital systems, really looking at how do we help align systems, thinking about teachers, supporting teacher leaders and principals to help reduce the fragmentation of some of the policies that we know hinder the progress. We also have another project, one that really will be our cross-divisional project around whole child, and how do we really think about policy solutions that consider the whole child and the social emotional development. And so we really are very intentional about those specific projects, recognizing that there are key trends in the field that will be discussion points for the next few years and supporting them through that process.
Great. And I know that one set of grants over the past few years have been specifically around helping states develop policy plans for the early childhood care and education sector in their states, whether it's for the workforce or developing a comprehensive strategy to think about early care and education. And states have been using the grant funding to support policy changes that they would like to see implemented in their states. Can you tell us a little bit about that project?
Sure. So early childhood has really become a major part of the discussion within governors' offices. There's been a recognition of the importance of strong starts in early childhood, and how do we have high quality learning environments. And so through that recognition of the governors is why we launched 2 particular projects. One is a comprehensive strategy project That particular project awarded states $25,000 to look across multiple systems as to how they can improve their early childhood system. And it really allowed the governor flexibility to be able to think about what part of their early childhood system they wanted to address and to be able to utilize grant funds to increase the capacity to be able to execute those grants. We saw, for example, Governor Ige out of Hawaii hosted an early childhood summit to bring together key constituents to be able to talk about the importance of early childhood and really rally the community around early childhood and what the state of Hawaii needed to do in order to improve not only their early childhood system, but improve school readiness and that transition into kindergarten and beyond. We had Kentucky, another great state. They worked on a superintendent's toolkit to help superintendents understand the importance of school readiness and early childhood and really provide them resources to understand developmentally appropriate practice and be that instructional leader within their district to really think about how they're embedding and incorporating early childhood. And we have seen, even as the grants have come to a close, we have seen the states continue the work because of the momentum that happened as a result of the grant. Another grant that we started last year, and we're actually continuing with the second cohort, we're preparing to launch that February of 2018, is around the early care and education workforce, recognizing that the early childhood workforce is one that really needs a lot of attention right now. We have very dedicated providers that aren't necessarily receiving the right supports. And there's been a lot of interest about how do we address the early childhood workforce and what component of the workforce do we address. And so this particular project gave states $12,500 to work on a piece of the early childhood workforce. And we had 6 states participate in this project, and each state was able to select what piece, but we found that there were some key trends within those 6 states. We had 3 states really focus heavily on compensation, recognizing that early childhood providers are the lowest paid of any teacher. And so they really wanted to look at how they can improve the compensation for these providers who are really handling our most youngest students or children. And how do we really make sure that we're not only compensating them financially, but also in other aspects, looking at anything from insurance and just the quality of their working experience. We had a couple of other states really look at getting a better grasp on the landscape of who is in their workforce. And not only who is in their workforce, but where are they? Are they private child care providers? Are they in-home providers? Are they center-based providers? And then understanding what's their level of education and experience and what additional supports they might need. And so we were able to help those states really work on getting a pulse on what their landscape is to then be able to guide what the policy solution might be as they try to address some of the gaps within their early care and education workforce. The fascinating piece with the workforce project is we were actually able to see a few of the states lead their work to a policy solution, which is always a huge win when your work results in actual legislation.
Great, and we will be talking to different governor education policy advisors throughout the meeting over these next couple of days to learn more about how they have benefited from and are utilizing these grants. So it's great to get the overview from you. So from your view, what are some of the policy challenges that states are facing regarding education?
Yeah, great question. You know, I would say the number one challenge is financing. State budgets are limited, and with the limitation of state budgets, that also then leads to what you can do programmatically. And I think as states navigate those financial changes, that is really one of the challenges, trying to figure out what do we want to continue working on, what do we need to think about eliminating, and what do we want to, in this opportunity of looking at the funding challenges, what might we want to eliminate and maybe bring in something new? And so I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges that states are facing, and on multiple fronts, as there are changes on the federal level, that those changes also impact state budgets. And so until states really have some consistency and an understanding of what the changes will be potentially to healthcare, that will have implications to education and what decisions states can make. And so I think that will probably be one of the biggest challenges in the next few years.
And what advice would you give to researchers who want to influence education policy and be helpful to policymakers?
So, probably two things. One would be vocabulary matters, really thinking about word choice and word delivery, because policy advisors, they are speaking to constituents who don't have the depth of content knowledge or understanding. And so to frame the work in a way that an end user can easily understand, I think that would probably be one of the biggest pieces, is how we translate research to policy. And also the days of reading dense documents are long gone. And so what easy to read, high quality information could look like, and being creative in how we are delivering information to policymakers. Also understanding that they're inundated with information and requests and demands, and so how we can elevate issues in a way that's meaningful and easy for them to translate out to their constituents as well. I think those would be probably the two pieces of advice. I can say for myself, even trying to shift through what information to provide to policy advisors or governor's office, it's easy to become inundated. And so once you identify credible resources, it's then how do we condense this down in a meaningful way to be able to translate not only to the policymaker, but then how can they then translate that on as well?
So can you tell us a bit about the role of research and data in the work that you do?
So we really, over the last year, we have gone through a strategic planning process, and we heard directly from policy advisors, from our key constituents in the field. And one theme became very clear, and that was the need to have data-driven, research-based decision-making. And so we've actually made data-driven is one of our 3 core principles in our new strategic plan, because we have found that it is going to be vital to everything we do. And so with that, we are looking at research and how we can implement and embed research and data into every single one of our projects and into the work that we do, and message that to policymakers as well, that it's critically important that they're making policy solutions that are grounded not only in the science, but in research and in data.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for joining us on
pleasure.
CPRE's Knowledge Hub. We learned a lot from your perspective and your role as Education Division Director at the National Governors Association, and we look forward to speaking with you again in the future.
Thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to future discussions.